So I keep having this image the last couple days of all the monks and the nuns who are dedicating their whole lives to praying for us. All the little Buddhist nuns up in Nepal and the mountains and those beautiful monasteries. Oh, somebody's playing country music. It just started like a soundtrack, some country music song right outside my house. There's a car going by. I was like, what? Anyway, they're probably not listening to country music in Nepal, but maybe. But just that thought has been sort of keeping me um, feeling held, that somewhere all over the place, all over the world, in the high mountains of Greece and the Catholic monasteries, and in the Benedictine monasteries, and in the Buddhist monasteries in Nepal, and in the Zen monasteries of Japan, there are all of these people who have chosen to devote their whole lives to the practice of stillness, and not just for themselves. I imagine most of them for all of us. And I was thinking too how, yes, they have a sort of outer stillness that they get to be within, which is really lovely. But I think it was Stephen Batchelor I listened to one time talking about monks that he knows that even after 18 or 19 or 20 years of practicing meditation, sometimes they sit down and there's no stillness. Like they could be in the most beautiful monastery in the world and they have the same thoughts as we do. We all have the same capacity to have inner stillness or not. And so, whatever our stillness might be like on the outside, whatever world we happen to be living in right now, that we can come to an inner stillness and an inner aloneness that's really healing. And so maybe your eyes closed, but they certainly don't have to. And just to walk into, to take a big step into a space inside yourself that feels like solitude, to come into remembering your innate goodness, your innate dignity, your innate resilience. And I often will remind people that yoga isn't about like taking a spiritual Prozac and just sort of, cutting off the world. Um, Angel Kyoto Williams says it's like putting your headphones on. Like sometimes you just have to put your headphones on and listen to really good music and sort of like be in your own space. And then you go back and you take the headphones off and you go back into the world. I invite you to really have that sort of feeling today of like putting your headphones on, that this practice is really for you, that we're going to try not to let the outside world in too much. You're going to be like a Buddhist nun or a monk way, way out in the mountains in a beautiful monastery, and really attend to the inner life. If you want to, you can bring your palms to your heart. If you're lying down or sitting down, it doesn't matter. We can begin with Om today. You might touch your hands to your body somewhere or just leave them where we are. And as we chant Om, or as I chant Om and you listen, just to think again, to sort of let it reflect on the idea that all over the world, there are people doing this for us right now. We're all chanting together, actually. Om. And we could begin lying down today and rolling around on the ground. And really, it's just that. It's nothing like prescribed or specific, but to lay down, to maybe reach your arms over your head and do sort of like log rolls that we did when we were little. And the idea being here to try to press as much of the body into the ground as possible. And so even as you roll, you could try to like press your armpits into the ground, press your cheeks against the ground. And it might be very much like one long roll like you're really doing like a log roll where the hips and pelvis go together, or it might be that the hips initiate, or sorry, did I say the hips and pelvis go together? The hips and shoulders. The hips might initiate, the shoulders might initiate. There could be some amount of twisting. The legs could go together, they could move apart. There's really no wrong way to do it. There could also be some attention to the hands and the feet. You could even try pressing them into the ground, toenails and fingernails, backs of the hands, fronts of the hands, forehead, crown, low back. Is there anywhere that's missing? Might be interesting to roll over your arms. Give a little compression to the body. Might be interesting to invite a back bend into it somewhere, that maybe as you roll to the belly, you pick your head up or you slide your forearms to the ground. So we'll do this for a little bit, and I thought I would chant to you a little bit while you do this, just for half a minute or so. And if you wanted to join me while you're rolling around, you could also chant with me. And this chant is one that probably right now in this moment, lots of Buddhist monks and nuns are chanting for us. And so we can think of it as just joining into their chant, not starting our own, but just joining their voices. And it's Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Two more. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Last one. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Can come to a slow stop, an organic place to rest for a moment. May these words protect us. That's what they're meant to do. It's a mantra for protection. May it protect all of us. And know that it's being chanted all over constantly, words of protection for you. Go ahead and come onto your knees. And as you come, and just a word, we're going to sort of face all around the mat as we often do today. If you get mixed up and you're facing the wrong side, or you need to turn around to see, don't worry about it at all, okay? Just take care of your own needs here. So coming to your knees, and we'll start by standing on the knees, making like cactus arms. You pull your elbows down a little bit, and it's a hint of a back bend, but nothing major. And then bring your forearms together, almost like you could bring the hands in prayer, or you could have the palms facing you, and coming rounded through the upper back, middle back, and finally lower back down towards a child's pose. And a couple more times like that, coming up onto the knees, letting the elbows, forearms move apart, the shoulder blades draw together to expose the front of the heart. And then going rounding, coming back into that soft, rounded place, coming maybe all the way to child's pose. Couple of times, having some sensitivity here. Sensitivity about your hands. Are they soft and gentle? sensitivity about the skin. Can you feel everything? Is there a softness about the skin that allows for the subtle nuance of feeling? And then the next time that you come down to that child's pose, just go ahead and rest there for a moment. We'll collect each other. And then you could crawl out onto all fours. And as you come to hands and knees, let's just take the right hand and just start to draw with it. Just move it all around any which way. And I always find it really fascinating that, I'm telling you just to draw with your hand and use your arm, but the whole body moves, doesn't it? So just noticing the sort of ripple patterns, how when you move the arm one way, how the spine follows, how the pelvis follows, how the legs follow. Can you follow those little trails like shooting stars of movement, wakes of movement, all the way up to the top of the head, all the way to the left fingertips, all the way down to the toes? It's so beautiful. Just gonna try to get really like in the body today, a good old feel good flow to move all the joints. So come on to stillness, come back to hands and knees, tuck your toes under, take a downward dog, start to grow your legs. If you need more space in the low back, keep your knees quite generously bent. And then, like you're just riding the crest of a wave, roll from down dog to plank and right back a few times. And you all know what I say now all the time, slow it down, right? Turn the speed dial down like 20% so that the nuance, the subtleties of feeling, you can really experience them the next time that you arrive in no rush in your plank. Stay there, and we're just going to swivel the pelvis so that your hips dip. The swivel on the balls of your feet, dip your hips down to the right side. They don't have to touch the floor, but they might. And then back through center and dip your hips over to the left side. And we'll do it just one more time. Through center, dip the hips over to the right. This time, lower yourself all the way down onto that right hip, where you could even pause for a moment, just feeling that side of the body just hang like a hammock. And then sit on your butt. So you'll be a little bit off the side of your mat. If you're using one, don't worry. Turn around so you're facing your feet. Sit on your cheeks. Cross your left ankle over your right if it isn't already, and take just a little walk out over your legs and invite some roundness of the spine here. Go back into your cave, your little Buddhist nun or monk cave of solitude inside your body. And we'll turn that into a twist as you come up with the spine. You can bring your left foot a little closer to you, step it outside the right knee, and then anchor your left hand behind your back. Go ahead and twist as you like here. You could touch the knee with the hand, you could hook the elbow across, but being really mindful to not lose that sensitivity. How are your hands? How's your forehead? How about the throat? What about, that's a big one. I find that I tighten my throat a lot when I get anxious or when I'm just not really embodied, when I'm too much in my forehead. I don't realize it. So the throat could soften. And you might follow that softness all the way down into the belly as you continue to twist. And allow just one more layer of softness in the belly. And then undo it, undo the twist. Keep turning. So as you untwist, keep turning all the way around to the right. We're going to face the front of the mat again and just spill down onto your belly. Let your legs both stream back behind you. Just loosen the legs back. And as you come onto the belly, you could take a cobra, so either on your palms or your fingertips. If you like the hands a little wider, open them up, that you could peel the heart up and have the shoulders also have some movement and freedom. And the eyes might gaze around. And then from there, we'll do all that on the other side. So take it back through a child's pose. Slow motion. And coming up onto the knees with those cactus arms, soft skin of the hands, feeling the air between your fingers, opening the chest just enough, and then bringing forearms together to round. And you could do that a couple of times in no rush. And the next time that you round yourself, round all the way down to the floor into a child's pose, go ahead and crawl your hands out and come to hands and knees. And we'll do the left arm this time. So just using the fingers, the hand, to start tracing patterns, to draw, be like Jackson Pollock and draw all over your floor, your mat, your carpet, whatever you're on. And then just following the little ripples like the wake of a sailboat, the echo of movement. One of my favorite words lately when it comes to the body is gliding. I know we want more of that. Gliding the surfaces inside, just gliding against each other. Go ahead and start to let that come to a stop, and you can take downward facing dog in no rush. Gliding from down dog to plank and back. And you might hover and plank, or you might even hover anywhere along the way to plank. It's interesting, right? We usually only stop in one of those two places. What if you stopped somewhere along the way? What would that be like? I was driving across the Rhinebeck Bridge yesterday, and this hawk just floated right above the bridge as all the cars were going. It was like stopped in time, just caught a, I don't know, current or something, and could hang there. It was amazing. It'd be like a bird just floating. And then as you come to plank, this time we'll dip the hips to the left first. So a little swivel on the balls of the feet. Hips dip left, and then they go back through center. They dip right. And when they go left this time, slow, bring them all the way down. Just do your best with it. Maybe a moment where they just hang and you feel that loosening of the right side, the left side body. And then butts to the floor, turn to the back, and you got right ankle on top this time. Take a forward fold of any amount over the legs, as long as you feel it, you're doing it. You can let the head drop. Notice for me, these forward folds are often pretty intense early in the morning. There's like a heat that starts to spread in the back. You have that. Could you notice any temperature changes of the body? And then as you sit up tall again, bring the right foot a little closer, step it outside the left knee. Right hand is the anchor behind your tailbone, and then you turn your whole body in that direction. How are your hands? How are your feet? How is your heart? Nobody ever asked me that before I started doing yoga. Did you get asked that a lot? I wonder. We haven't talk about that later. How is your heart? How is your heart? What a gift to just even think about it. So untwisting, you'll start turning the whole upper body to the left. Keep turning, and just kind of spill out onto your front side, legs long behind you. Take a cobra, the size that fits you, the amount of wiggle and movement that fits what you need right now. And then you can make your way back into a child's pose. The dog kisses are great. And we'll do that again. We'll do a little of adding on as we do. So coming up this time again, coming up, same as before, to start with this kneeling, kind of opening the gate, feeling of the arms, the cactus arms, and then the drawing in and the rounding. A couple of times. Next time you come down and in and you round, you could start to crawl your way out onto all fours. So like we did with the arm, but this time the right leg. So using the right toes to draw all over the floor. It's a little different. I don't know about you, but I had never done this until today. And it was really quite interesting. Not as accessible as the arm, not as easy to get that gliding feeling. But I think with a little practice, it starts to get interesting. Sliding the leg any which way, over, under, across, around. Mm. And you could let that take you back into downward facing dog. There's no rush. Hmm. From downward dog, just one time, ripple out into plank. And then just like before, the right hip dips, and then the left. And then the right, and you let it hang there, kind of dangle the hip for a moment until it comes all the way down. Turn to the back, cross legs, left over right. Fold your way forward. And as you come up from there, you can bring that left foot in, step it outside the right knee. Option to stay like that, or if you wanted to bend the bottom knee as well, you could do that. So the regular sort of more traditional twist, but it's just as wonderful with the leg long. And then go ahead and anchor that left hand behind you and twist around to the left. And then as you untwist, we'll do the same thing, just spilling all the way around onto the belly. Let your legs stream back behind you, either a cobra, or you might want to invite an upward dog in this time. So lifting thighs and knees off the ground, but with that same sort of invitation to freedom and movement, that you could live here. It's not too restrictive. And then let's take it into a downward dog. So go ahead and tuck your toes or roll over the toes to lift your hips up and back. And that same leg that we were just dancing around earlier, you could pick it up, the right leg, and let it start dancing all around in the sky this time. In downward dog, let your leg move any which way, bend straight, over, under, around, anything, all. And eventually, but slowly, you're going to step your right foot all the way up to the top of the mat. If it takes a couple steps, take a couple. Half moon, so shifting all the weight onto your right foot. You can start to inch your hands forward in front of you, and then pick up the left leg, pick up the right arm. Mm-hmm. You want to let your arm and leg do a little moving dance here too. Just letting the joints have some freedom. Mm-hmm. If you need a block under your hand, you could use one. We're going to collect at the top of your space here, feet together-ish. So start to let your joints get soft. You can bring your left foot down near, doesn't have to touch, but near the right one. Standing forward bend, soft and loose, almost like a standing child's pose, where you could bend the knees a bit so your spine can round, and you could bobble around. Maybe you hold on to the elbows or the biceps, give the upper body a little more weight. Nice. And we're going to come back into a down dog, but I invite you first. Perhaps there's a crow pose here. If you wanted to, you could put your palms down, move your knees apart, bring your big toes together, and try to climb your shins up onto your arms. And if there's not a crow pose that wants to happen, just take a delightful little walk or hop back into downward dog. Sandra reminds me sometimes people still want to do poses, because I tend to get so not posy. So this is for Sandra. Uh, People want to pose. So go ahead and make your way back to downward facing dog. All I want to do is wiggle around. And then from down dog, go ahead and drop your knees to the ground. Take child's pose. So start that on the other side. So coming to that kneeling cactus arm position, just maybe 2 times or 3 times, depending on how fast or slow you go. Hmm. Like the nuns in the monastery, it has that sort of feeling, doesn't it? This bowing feels like praying with our bodies. You could land in child's pose, walk your way out to hands and knees, right? Maybe somewhere somebody's doing something just like this for us. Left leg, start to move those left toes, left foot, left leg, any direction. You can sort of feel maybe the awkwardness to it if there is some, and how eventually maybe a little more glide starts to happen. Glide it all around. Start to invite yourself into downward dog. As you arrive, take that one big long roll out into plank pose. And going first, left hip, swivel, swivel on the balls of the feet. Dip once, swivel over, dip twice. And then a slow dip over to the left where you let it hang for a moment and then sit down. Turn towards your feet, right ankle over left, crisscross, forward fold. And as you come up, bringing that right foot closer, step it down outside the left leg. You choose. If that's plenty, you stay. Otherwise, you bend the bottom knee too, and twisting to the right this time. Feel the earth moving down from the crown of the head down through the legs into the earth of you, and the water of you moving down. And then feel the wind of you lifting up and the fire of you rising as you twist. And then as you unravel, just kind of smoothly letting everything undo itself, like untying a knot, fall onto your belly, spill the legs back. Cobra or up dog, any back bend of your choosing, without rushing, and then pouring into downward dog. And here it's the left leg that gets to dance in the sky now. Loosen it from the ground, reach it up into the stars, move it this way, move it that way, with no prescription and no judgment, just anywhere it wants to go. Eventually, bringing it up between the hands to step firmly and pour the weight into your left foot, left big toe, left fingertips, coming up into your half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. And you could stay still and hover. It's never really quite still, is it? Or you could let the right arm and leg do any amount of exploring and dancing around. You know where we're going, right? Eventually we'll meet in the standing forward fold. So there's no hurry at all. You could take another breath or two. Anything that might happen along the way is very welcomed. And then eventually just coming to some semblance, that suggestion again of stillness, not the mandate, but a quieter place. Then you could take a crow. If you wanted something more challenging, even than that, you could come to crow and then try stretching one leg at a time straight out to the side. What we used to call turn signal. You kick one foot out, like right foot kicks out to the right and then pulls back, and left foot kicks out to the left and then pulls back. And don't worry if that's like, what is she talking about? We'll meet in downward dog. Lots of stops anywhere along the way. And when you arrive in downward dog, rest in child's pose. Drop your knees down, seat back towards heels, or perhaps two heels, any amount of opening through the knees that your belly could descend. Soft throats, one more layer of softening in the belly. Arms can go where they like. So come on up and just watch for a moment. We're going to build on some of these themes here. So I just want you to see this first. So we'll come and do just like we did before, moving the arm, but this time we'll eventually take it into a thread the needle where we're also going to extend the opposite leg out. And we'll keep the opposite leg out and come back to these cactus and rounding a few times. And then keeping that leg out, we'll take a gate pose and then a gate the other way. And then this is what I really wanted you to see is when we get here, we'll open this top arm and leg up almost like a half moon. And then try to maybe bring that leg across and fold. It might not get all the way. Wherever it comes to is fine. We're going to open and close a few times like that. And there could be other things that happen along the way. Okay, so something like that. It's not going to look just like that, but it'll be something in the realm of that. So first coming to all fours, and you're going to do the right arm, just like we did before, just a little bit. We've been here, we know already, the body has this pattern now. A little more gliding perhaps because it's familiar. And then you could let it start to reach let's do some circles or just let that right arm, can dance in the sky for a little bit. And then eventually it's going to slide under left arm and come to rest in the thread the needle position. And then you can take your left leg and reach it over towards your hand. And we'll stay here for a moment. I'm not going to rush through this sequence here. So maybe there's movement that wants to happen, or maybe there's stillness. You could play a bit, or you could just rest inside yourself here. Inner solitude. And keep your left leg out there as you come on up to kneeling on that right knee. And then taking that cactus, little bit of a back bend. And a suggestion here is that you could play when you're in the back bend part. Could you move a little bit? Could you is there room for play here? Is there room that perhaps you might even laugh or sing or talk or yell just to check in, just so you know it's possible here, that this is a shape that you could live in for a moment. It's not feeling too restrictive. You could go back and forth between that and that forearm together, rounded place. And we'll stay here for a little bit, and I'll just invite one more option here. And again, this is one that you might be like, absolutely not. But if you felt so inclined as you come into this rounded place, you might also clasp your hands, put your head down. And this could be either you just come to rest some weight on the head, right? You don't have to go all the way up. You could just practice putting weight on the head. Or from this interesting asymmetrical position, you might try to come up into a headstand. You gotta come right back to where you were. It's very kind of fun. If headstand is a regular part of your practice, to come from gate pose can be really interesting. And to try to come back into it, it's a good one for your brain. Yeah, you could gather props and things if you need them. Take your time. We'll live a little bit here. So any amount of playing. Eventually we'll land just coming back to kneeling on that right knee, gate pose. And you could take your body first over the long legs. So folding over towards the left side, slide your left hand down, reach the right arm up and over. We can hang out here for a moment till we collect everybody. And then going the other way, so the right hand will come down and the left arm will come over your ear. And then like half moon, start to pick that left leg up. You can reach your right arm straight up, your left arm straight up into the sky. You might move it around a little bit. And then sort of that same idea of just letting the legs start to loosen around and dance. Could you maybe cross your left thigh in front of the right thigh? And even if it's just bringing your toes down to the floor, anything at all, and then open again. And just kind of playing with that idea. You could fold down really low, like a child's pose almost, a couple times. Anywhere the arm wants to go, anything is welcome here. Eventually, we will land in Gomukhasana. So that's where your left shin, your left knee, your left thigh crosses over the right and you sit down. If it doesn't work like that, just come to sitting, okay? And you could just take your left leg, cross it over the right. Maybe the bottom leg stays long, okay? Or maybe you do bend the bottom leg, but it didn't happen coming from gate pose. So anyway you get there, come to your version of this shape, and then we'll just fold forward over it. Come on up. Undo whatever leg situation you have. Put your feet on the floor, bent knees about hip width apart, hands behind you, just an upside down tabletop, little counter shape here. You could shift the weight in your shoulders side to side. You could move your pelvis a little bit, just kind of wash it off. Move your head around. And then come on down, crossing your right ankle in front of your left ankle. Just a simple forward fold. Walk your arms out, let your head drop, round your back. As you come up from there, you might be able just to kind of roll over your knees onto all fours. If that doesn't happen, swing your legs around any way you get there. Hands and knees. And now it's the left arm that's going to dance all around and start to reach into the sky. And eventually, that left arm is going to dive under the right. And the right leg will kick out to meet it or to come close to it. Doesn't have to meet. And you could play and live and move a little bit here or just rest a little bit here. Nice. And then go ahead and start to come on up with the legs in gate pose and the arms like cactus. A couple times you could play with that idea of, can I move here? Am I free? Can my skin stay soft? Are my eyes still gentle? Is my jaw relaxed while I'm here? You could go back and forth between this rounding and this arching. Or if you feel inspired to, you can drop the forearms, clasp the hands, drop your head. Maybe that's plenty, or maybe you tuck the left toes under, pick your hips up. Or maybe you lift up from there. Okay, if you do go up into the headstand, you're trying to come back right into gate pose. There's no hurry. You got some time. We spent a good amount on the other side. So you got some time to play around in whatever situation arises here. Yeah. Eventually, sort of meander your way into a gate pose where your right hand slides down towards the ankle. There's no hurry though. Left arm over the ear. Mhm. And then go the other way. Yeah, tip it to the other side. You can invite the right leg now to float. And then just see what happens with that right leg. So thinking about the eventuality of that Gomukhasana shape, the thighs cross, but just playing little bits at a time, little tiny drips and drops of movement. It's so pretty. Mm. And eventually, that's where we will end up. Right leg is on top. Do we have the right leg? Yeah, right leg is on top. And so as you get there, you could sit and you could create it right from this seated place. Right leg on top. Maybe the bottom knee bends, maybe it doesn't. And then just draping the body rounded in some way, just a little bit even over the legs. Come on up. As you come up, unwrap your legs, slide them apart, feet down, hands behind you, and then just one more time, up you go. A little bit of a back bend, not much. You could even keep the chin level or drop it towards your collarbones if you like. And then we'll come down and put the left ankle in front, just seated, simple, cross-legged forward. As you come back up, try to just stay really soft and calm and just roll down onto your back. And just like we did in the beginning, that rolling around a little bit on your back, a little kind of log roll. It's eventually going to turn into a twist, but just take your time with it. And you can land on any side of the twist that you like. And it might be that both knees come across in your twist, or it might mean that you just take the top leg and wrap it over the bottom one. But roll a little side to side and see which side you land on, where your body wants to land first. And then, yeah, start to settle in and spread out. Come on back through the middle. You could bring your knees in, or you can do a little more log rolling around until you land on the other side. Hmm. So as you come on back, no rush, start to make your way up to sit. Wanted to do a Tibetan pranayama practice in honor of all those sweet monks and nuns sweeping the floors and filling the rice bowls up there and chanting and praying for us. We'll do a little something for them. So it's called Tibetan alternate nostril breathing, and I'll explain it first and then we'll do it. You stick your hands in your armpits, which I love. And those of you who take my yin class know we talk about this all the time, that we don't touch our armpits enough. And there's actually points in there for the meridian points. There's one that's called the joy button, actually, right in your armpit. You know if you hit it because usually you giggle, but you can take your hands right into your armpits, and you can just start there, and then I'll show you the rest. But just hang out with your hands in your armpits, and so it looks like this: you inhale and lift one arm, and then that same arm is going to cover the nostril on that side, and you exhale through the opposite nostril. Hold the breath out just for a moment, slide the palm back in, and inhale the other way. So it's inhale through both nostrils. You can start at any time, and then you bring that thumb down to the nostril. You exhale through the opposite one. When you're empty, slide the hand into the armpit, and then inhale, other arm lifts. And you could just keep on going like that at your own pace, because we all have different breathing paces. But do try a little bit slower. It's also interesting if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. It can be interesting to change and do that. Close the eyes and notice how that feels. But it's not mandatory. So there's no rush, but when you get to the point where you breathe out through the right side, that'll be the last one. So you're closing the left and letting the hot air come out the right side. Any last vestiges of sort of like jitteriness, heat, fever, imagine it pouring out through the right side. And then you could let both hands just rest on your knees or thighs. One breath through both nostrils, in and out, nice and deep and smooth. And then go ahead and rest. And if you'd like to stay seated and do a seated meditation practice, you could do that, or you could lie down any which way you choose. But do try to really rest your body, heart, and mind, even if it's for just a breath. As you rest, seated or lying down, could you also just notice how somehow something is fundamentally okay? Somehow within you and without, something is fundamentally okay. Doesn't mean things are perfect, but they're okay. Begin to let your breath deepen here. Sense of all the molecules inside you all moving away from each other, equidistant as you breathe in. Hmm. Start to let your tiny joints move, maybe just a blink of the eyes at first, or the brush of the thumb against the fingertips. Okay. And just noticing the quality of inner solitude. No matter what happens, you've got that inside you to come home to. You could bring your hands, perhaps. You could roll up if you were, well, you were seated, but if you were on the ground, you could start to make your way up without any sense of rush or urgency. Just meander your way up. Bring your hands somewhere that they feel supportive, either on the belly or heart, or in a prayer on your knees. And we could join in with all of those monks and nuns all over the world who right now are chanting this same mantra too, just Om, breathing in. Om. We are being protected somehow, in spite of everything. Something's fundamentally okay and being protected. you, everybody. Mm.